Hey guys, well, here we are. This is the last video in how to plot your story, short and condensed version videos. I hope you've gotten a lot out of the videos that I've posted so far, and I went ahead and left up some of the longer ones too. They're pretty comprehensive, but like I said, I tend to lose my attention span is really short. It's not good. So if they're too long for you, then hopefully these help. So we've gotten through the last 90% of the book, in which we've explored these many different checkpoints: the opportunity, the change of plans, the point of no return, the major setback, and then 90% of the book we're confronted with the final push. And this is really the point in the book where, like I said in the last video, your main character or main characters and even antagonists, I think it's a really cool exercise to plot out the story or the character arc for your antagonist as well. It kind of gives the characters some complexity, and I'm definitely going to do some videos on characterization and how to develop your characters. But so the final push is where your main characters finally are fully comfortable in their new identity. And one of the things that I really spoke to in the last video, and I think this is so important, that is that their new identity has to be a combination of who they once were and who they are now through their journey. Remember, we're going on both a physical and a psychological journey, who they are now in their journey. At first, your character doesn't want to change. And then, through all of the different checkpoints, the change of plans, the point of no return, the major setback, your character really wants to change and doesn't really want to have anything to do with who they were at the beginning of the book. And then finally they realize that their new identity needs to be a combination of both, that there's good aspects and things about their old life that they need to draw into their new life. And this begins the final push, and the final push leads up to, Michael Haig puts it at 99%, not 100%, but at 99%. This is the climax. This is, the detective or the PI catches the criminal. Again, I write fantasy, sci-fi, adventure. The main bad guy, the boss, the enemy is defeated. In a romance novel, oftentimes this is the hero or the heroine gets the girl or the guy and overcomes their mean boss or whatever obstacles that they were dealing with. So there's a lot of different ways that this can be portrayed through your story depending on your genre. But when you think about it, it's really only the last 9 or 10% of the book that your main character becomes that big time hero badass. If we portray them like that, if they are Superman at the very beginning of the book, it's just not intriguing for most readers. Readers want to see, readers pick up a book to escape reality, but they don't want to completely escape reality, right? They want to read about people that they can relate to. And, if your characters overcome all of their obstacles with no failure and no stress and no anxiety and stuff like that, then they're just not believable, because that's not real life. And so it's only in this last 9 or 10% of the book that your main character becomes that unstoppable person. And this is where you get to be creative as the writer, and you write some really cool stuff about the big main battle and how the criminal gets caught. And it's really it's the crux of the book, but it's really such a small portion of the book. But obviously if we screw up the ending, then you're going to turn readers off. And I've done that. I had at the end of my third book, there was obviously going to be another series, and I had a couple people really upset about that. So your final push, you have to portray your character, and again, we'll do some videos on characterization. You have to portray your character as a new person. This new person can now overcome whatever obstacle that they were really given at the beginning of the book that they could never have overcome at the very beginning of the book. But in their new person, they can now overcome that obstacle. Now, the one thing that I will say is if you're writing a standalone story or novel, it needs to be complete. It needs to be tied up in a nice, neat bow and done. If you're writing a series, romance, detective novels, westerns, fantasy, sci-fi, a lot of trilogies or series, the story that you're writing needs to finish, but then you can leave a carrot at the end of the stick, right? Then you can leave an opening or a cliffhanger to allude to the fact that there's going to be more stories, right? I will be honest, I did not do this very well in my first 3 books. It's very clear that my first 3 books have to go together. You cannot read them separately. But you know, Tolkien didn't do a very good job of that in Lord of the Rings either. Now, some people will say that originally he meant to write it as 1 book and then it got broken up into 3, whatever the case may be. You know, I'm not going to go back and rewrite my first 3 books to make each book a standalone book with a cliffhanger. But, you know, generally speaking, my goal now as I write is to make sure that the story that I'm writing is finished, it's done, it's resolved, the conflict is resolved, and yet there is now an opening for another adventure, another story, okay? So that's the other big thing with this last 10%. I mean, this is gonna be the longest video, and it's the smallest portion of the book, but, you know, things need to be resolved. Now, here's the other kicker, right? You can introduce a new conflict subtly if you're planning on writing a series, but you don't want to. I use the example, I'm trying to think here. I use the example of the John Wick movies a lot, and if you haven't seen them, and you know, if you're not into violence and stuff, then probably don't see them, but you know, great movies. Each movie is pretty complete in itself, but it's obvious that there's gonna be another movie. Indiana Jones is another great example. The Indiana Jones movies, each movie is, it's done, it's complete, right? But it's pretty clear that there's gonna be another movie. You know, there's a lot of series out there like that. So anyways, I hope this was really, really helpful. It helps me talking about it. So if nothing else, I help myself, right? And that's important. So, keep checking the channel. I'm posting stuff about editing, about cover artwork, about formatting, about characterization, about marketing, all different kinds of stuff. And my other plan is to bring in other authors and other just business people who have had to deal with this stuff outside of the writing industry. And so anyways, by the way, make sure you check out my website. You can buy my books on my website through ebook, an ebook format that will work for any device. Obviously, you can also buy my books on Amazon. But the really cool thing about my website is you can actually buy a paperback, which you can do through Amazon too. But through Amazon, they're not signed, right? So through my website, I will sign your book and then mail it out to you, and there's no extra charge for shipping. Shipping is included in the price, so I'm a pretty nice guy, I will say. So again, I hope this was really helpful, guys, and as always, definitely happy reading. If you're an author out there, happy writing, and please reach out if you need help. The author community is super cool like that, and peace.